Former NFL player Burgess Owens said in a congressional testimony that Democrats should be the one to pay reparations.
How about the Democratic Party pay for all the misery brought to my race? And those, after we learn our history, decide to stay there, they should pay also. They're complicit. And every white American, Republican or Democrat, that feels guilty because of your white skin, you should need to pony up also.
It's interesting, the same people that want to tear down our history, our statues, and change our history and ask for reparations are the same people that did all the damage to the black community, the Democrats. You go all the way back to slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, KKK, the welfare state that destroyed our family, the lack of education for our kids today, the lack of job opportunities. It's all about Democratic policies and Democratic Party. So my thought was not reparation, but restitution. And restitution basically means you pay back what you've taken from us. The misery that we've gone through, the Democratic Party needs to pay up. And the point I made also is that once we know our history, once we understand not only what the black community did when we were able to compete without the policies of the Democrats, once you understand that damage, then those who still remain a Democrat with a D on their name should also pay. And the other point I made is that white Americans, both Democrat and Republicans, who feel some way guilty because of their white skin, they also need to pay. Because it's all about, if you feel sorry for what you've done, which you haven't, but you feel sorry for your background, then go ahead and you pay the price for it and not ask everybody else to pay the price for it.
Okay, so the Democratic Party has obviously, shifted in their policies from, post-19th century. They no longer support. They're no longer the party that, supports slavery. They very much advocate for civil rights. So do you think it's fair to say that Democrats are the ones that should pay for that?
I think the Democrats, first of all, haven't shifted anything. They still are the party of slavery. Look at every urban community that they oversee, and you see dependency, you see hopelessness, you see anger. You see mental and spiritual slavery, and done by people who know better. Those that oversee them, the Black Caucus and those guys, they literally live the American dream. But they're paid very well. Some becoming millionaires because they go along with the policies of the Marxist socialist left that keeps my race in bondage. So no, the idea of Democrats shifting, I don't know. The Democrats are the part of the KKK. It's the party of those who in the past looked at us outside in versus inside out. The party has always looked at the exterior versus what really makes a person character inside. That has not changed. They're using the partisan politics today, identity politics today, to tell us that whites are bad, blacks are good, blacks should be given credence because they're black, and it doesn't matter what our skin color is. And the worst thing that whites can tell my kids is that they are superior. They have better opportunity. They are better privileged because they're white. If my kids buy into that, then they have just demeaned the potential and the future of my generation because they're buying into a feeling of inferiority. And that's what these leftists do.
Okay. So the counter to that is, I think, the average Democrat would probably push back on that and say, that's not what their intention is at all, that the reason they support reparations is because they're trying to remedy the wrongs.
We had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination, segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not.
No need to grapple with practical questions about the proposal, like how you determine who receives and who pays for the reparations, how much it would cost, whether Nigerians who just arrived here would benefit.
They keep blaming America for the sin of slavery, but the truth is, throughout human history, slavery has existed, and America came along as the first country to end it within 150 years, and we get no credit for that.
How do you calculate the financial penalty for injustices that my great-grandfather committed against somebody else's great-grandfather?
Why do you think it's had such a negative response?
The thing that upsets me most if I hear this is the idea that we were a hapless, hopeless race waiting for white people to do some good for us, to allow us to become free, when we had already done that. We were competing. It was the democratic policies with the black elitists. And I'm just to make this point. White segregationists or white supremacists has not been our greatest enemy. It's been black elitists. It's those who live among us, who tell us what we can't do, and then buy onto policies that damage our race. When they can sit around and go with policies that are welfare, that turn our families upside down, make sure that our ladies now look to the government versus look to their husband, give the message to our young boys that you don't have to go out and work when you sit back and leech off your baby mama.
Okay, so I think ultimately, Democratic leadership and conservative leadership want the same end goal. They want the country to succeed. Do you think your testimony resonated with Democratic leadership earlier this week? And do you think they'll do anything?
No, I don't. I don't think it resonated. I don't think we have the same end game. The end game for the Democrats is what you see in Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia, any place there's an urban community. You see hopelessness. You see misery being used as a political strategy. And on the other side, you see, I'm not going to say Republicans, I'm going to say conservatives, because I'm more of a conservative than I am a Republican. I believe in God, country, family, and freedom. And those do not have the same end game as the Democrats.
Okay, so what do you think is the next step from here to move on from the discussion of reparations then? Well,
first thing is stop feeling sorry for the black community. All right, that's the first thing. And I'm going to say this for two parts of our country. White Americans, learn your history. Learn that you should be proud of what your ancestors did. There's no other country in the history of the world that's done what we've done to bring every single race to where we can truly live the American dream. We still are the most competitive race in this country as opposed to any place else around the world. So first of all, we need to realize that there's a big price to pay for us to get to where we are. Yes, there was the evils of slavery, but that was around for 4,000 years. It only lasted 89 years once we the people was penned. So we fought against that and lost 300,000 Union soldiers in the process. And every single step of the way, whether it be the Underground Railroad, in which thousands and thousands of white Americans, Hispanic Americans, opened up their homes and took a chance to help people to escape. Let's not let the leftists make you feel sorry and ashamed of what your ancestors did. We're living this dream that we're talking right now because of what our ancestors did. So on the other side, for black Americans, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Man up. Look at your history and realize that the generation before us did not sit back and feel and ask for people to look at them as beggars. With that comes a perception, a self-perception, and it's not a very positive one. When we're waiting for somebody else to take care of us, that is not a proud race, and that's a race that I will fight to tooth and nail not to ever get to.
Okay, so that's actually an interesting transition. How do you feel about the Nike Betsy Ross's shoes being recalled, basically at the request of Colin Kaepernick?
Well, first of all, Colin Kaepernick is a tool. We have to understand that Colin Kaepernick is a Marxist. He does not love our country. What's behind the curtains are these Marxists sitting on the Nike board of directors that are making decisions to demean our flag. And this, by the way, this wasn't done at the last minute. This has been done in the boardrooms. They made the decision to make the flag. They also made the decision to tear it down on 4th of July when we're celebrating freedom. We have a fight ahead of us. And a lot of it is that we have to deal with those people behind the curtain. And you wonder why these young men making $50 million a year can stand around a football field in which they have collectively billions of dollars that they can do great things together to raise our kids and give them hope. And yet they get on a knee because they've been told since they've been kids that our country is nothing but a racist place, that blacks don't have an opportunity. So these guys, Nike, NFL, they're very wealthy, elitist, Marxist, socialists. And what they're doing to our country right now, to our race particularly, is pure evil.
Okay, so you actually started an organization called Second Chance for Youth.
Yes.
And can you explain a little bit about what that is and what you do?
Absolutely. The program is designed for kids coming out of the juvenile system. What we're finding out is that, first of all, many of them don't even have a first chance. 85% of them don't have a father in the home. They're not educated anymore. So they go into the system, and instead of being corrected, they're being punished, and they come out, and 70% go back in. We need to change that. We not only give them a chance to get their education, to give them hope, to give them an opportunity to know that this country is all about second chances. That if we get these young people back, when they come out at 18 and 19 years old, instead of going back into the system, they can be some of the strongest advocates for our country because they will truly have grown through and understand the idea of getting hope again. By the way, these are the kids that our leftists, the Democrats you just talked about, never talk about. That party is not our friends, has never been. They're throwing our kids away by the thousands. And as I said, that 75% of these black boys in the state of California can't read and write. They're not going to be going to school, by the way. They're going to be going to jail because they have no other way to make a living and to be productive. So we need to change that and have our kids coming out of the system, which is what I'm committed to, and make sure that they get a chance to truly become advocates of the American way and American dream and be proud of that American flag.